So we're going to be focusing on two things this class. I'm going to show you guys how to do like a front-facing portrait as well as a side-facing portrait, and then you can decide which one you want to do as like a starting point or a base for your stained glass style illustration. So for a front view, we can get started with a circle. And then what I like to do, if it's exactly front facing, just like our example over here, it's really helpful to have like a line of symmetry. And from here, I can start drawing in the chin. Since it's a front view, it's okay if your lines are exactly like straight. I'll give you a quick example, like if your head was in a more of a 3/4 view, like this, your lines would have to be curved. And then if you want to sketch out some eyes, I'm always alternating left and right or right to left the steps of drawing the eyes instead of drawing like, oh, an eye, and then do the other one. I'm doing it step by step just so it's more symmetrical. Anime noses tend to look like a little triangle, just like this, or a dot. They're pretty simple. The most detailed an anime nose gets is like this long line and then a nostril. But again, it's a style choice. So I want you guys to keep this in mind. Yes, there are guidelines you can follow. However, when you're drawing and you're following a guideline and you're looking at your whole picture and you're like, the chin can be shorter, the mouth can be higher up. If you feel that way, try and move things around. Because guidelines are only there to help you out, but you can always make changes. It's not like once you draw something, that's it. And then for ears, just look at where you placed your eyebrows and about the nose. And then that's about the size of the ear. And that being said, again, like I said about guidelines, if you draw something based on a guideline and afterwards you're like, that's a little too big, that's a little too small, you can change it. Because I'm following guidelines, right? When I'm looking at it overall, I feel like, yeah, her ears are a little too big. So I'm going to change it. So a neck isn't that difficult. You can use the pupils as a guideline and kind of see where is that line and just like trace a line. And that's about where the neck should be, like how wide should it be. And then a neck it's literally just a cylinder, but it gets wider at the bottom. Just like this. So it's just two straight lines, but it gets wider at the bottom. The side view isn't that different in terms of steps, like how many steps to draw a side view. It's pretty much the same amount. I still like to start with a circle. So now I'm starting the side view. And then what I'm gonna do next is draw a flat line. And this is going to be our starting point for the front of the face. And then when you're drawing a character from a side view, usually the longer it is, the more like masculine it looks. But if you're making it shorter, it looks a bit more feminine. The neck from the side view, it's the same idea. It's still a cylinder that gets bigger at the bottom. However, from the side view, it's a little more on a tilt. Because even when we look at this example, his neck, even though it's covered, you can see it's a little tilted. It's not like straight up. So you can outline where the neck is gonna be. Like just a faint line, and then you can draw on your cylinder. So just like the front view, we drew guidelines for the eyes, right? You want to do the same thing for the side view. And you can do the same method. Your lines do not have to curve around the head because it's just a side view. It's a flat side view, just like how the front view is also flat. You can't tell that it's super 3D. Just like this, like a 3/4 view, you can obviously tell like, yeah, it has to be 3D. So you have to wrap around the shape. But for front view, side view, you don't have to. You could use flat lines, just like that. So this is where it gets a little bit different because drawing eyes on a side view, the eyes do get squished somewhat because you're not seeing them head on. So what I like to do is start with like an arrow. You can think of it as an arrow shape. Like this is the top arch of the eye, and then this is the bottom arch. So on the side view, this line here actually dips in a little bit. But the blue line helps us as a guideline of the overall shape of the head. So if this is an anime nose from the front, an anime nose from the side is that same triangle, but more pulled out, more pointy. Just be careful that when you're drawing a mouth on the side view, try not to make it too wide. Well, you could, but it's like a style choice, right? Because realistically speaking, this doesn't work. Your mouth can't extend that far from your eye. But I know some animes, they have the mouth on the side. Once I have a mouth, I can add in the shape of the lips. And then the ears are the same measurement. So visualize the eyebrows to the nose, and then you can sketch out an ear. Half circle shape. So I'm thinking of who do I want to draw? I really like this sleeping look in the example, but I also like the side profile. It looks really noble. You can also play with expression. So I know that characters in stained glass art, they tend to look more calm. But if you wanted to do like a flaming or angry person, you can do that too. And this is just the sketching phase, sketching time. The outlining will be a little different because when we look at the examples here, outside of the face, we can see there's a lot of cool fragmented lines for the hair. They're all very geometric, so that's what we're gonna aim to do. But the sketch is just a sketch, just to get your idea on paper. I also like the idea of a closed eye, so I'm gonna see what that would look like. So just like with the practice heads, remember how I just started with a base. It's not any character in particular, and then after I'm done that base, I can add in hair, details that make that character look more unique. And then for the body, so if you wanted to do just a portrait, so only up to here, I'm fine with that. If you wanted to do a little bit of a body, like the torso, you could draw this circular shape. And then from here, this is a good starting point, like if you wanted to add any details. I'm gonna do a water-inspired character, so a water-themed girl. So her hair can be like water, and it can blend into the background. And then you can have fun with this part because for the theme or the character that I'm doing, since her hair is like water, I could make it more swirl-y. And ideas can always change as you go, right? But just try not to make too many idea changes when you're already like so far ahead in your drawing. If you're at this stage, like the sketching stage, feel free to change your ideas. Because when I look at this, I'm like, oh, her hair can be like flowers too. It could be so many things. because at this stage you're not outlining, you're not doing anything that finishes your drawing, and then you can have a rough idea of what do you want to do for the background since it's a stained glass drawing. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? It could just be a simple pattern or a motif. So for her, if her theme is water, I could have watery swirls in the background. And then this is just the idea, and then when I start outlining, I can add more detail, make it look more geometric. Because that's the other thing with a stained glass style drawing, it's the lines are very straight, they're more angular. Like when we look at these examples, although there are some curved lines, a majority of them are really straight and edgy, right? Because again, stained glass, like a real piece of stained glass art, it's pieces of colored glass, like melted together with metal. So I would say the lines in the face can be smoother just because it's an anime character, or just because we want the style to be in the hair, like showing up in the hair the most. So I'm just gonna outline this head as usual. That's the main outlining. That is just like regular outlining. So for now, I'm gonna move on to her hair and her clothes, and I'm gonna outline it more like the stained glass style. It's gonna take a little bit of getting used to, just because it's a different style. It's gonna be a little difficult for me too, because one, her theme is water, and water is very organic, very flowy. So to tell myself, make it look angular, it's a little unnatural, but that's the style. And then what I can do here is like add those pieces of glass. So if I'm drawing like a swirly line here, angular is like taking that swirl and turning them into like this. So it's less smooth and more jaggedy. And honestly, you can play around with this technique, like with this look, because there isn't really a right or wrong of the placement of these glass fragments that you're making. However, I'm using more triangles. So try to avoid, like, if this is a piece of hair, try to avoid making it like squares, just like that, because it gets a little boring. The other thing that I like about this stained glass style artwork is that if you're still working on making your drawing look good, like the fundamentals of your drawing look good, this style, it kind of draws attention away from what you're still practicing and working on, and it looks really cool. And here's the final drawing. Thanks for watching! If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a fellow art nerd or a teacher. If you really liked it and enjoy free quality art education, subscribe!